What is up, my dudes? Welcome to Storytime with the Reddit Fairy. My name is Lorna, and today we're looking at the subreddit r/StoriesAboutKevin once again. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's get right into it. Kevin ruins chemistry equipment. Posted by user JBH007. This is a Kevin I've written about before here. He is Kevin 1 in that story. He's been pretty dreadful ever since, with the exception of one lab where he actually corrected a mistake I wrote on the board. I was so proud of him that day. Sniff. Well, sadly it didn't last. The most recent lab required the use of micropipettes. Based on the previous week, where everything went super smoothly, Kevin and his previous Kevina partner were separated to prevent me from getting another migraine from them. I set my hopes up too high. Micropipettes are a rather simple tool to use. You put a removable plastic collection tip on the end, set the volume you want to collect, and press the button on top to collect and dispense the liquid sample. I demonstrated to my class how to use them. The other TA also did. He's my supervisor, so to say, so he gives the lectures for me. Everyone else knew how to use them, mostly, and made sure to always grab clean tips. Kevin and his partner were the last people to use their pipette because reasons. They took longer to get their calculus done, and I stood next to them watching them do the pipetting. Despite all of the demonstrations and everyone else around them doing it properly, Kevin took the pipette, did not put a tip on, and while I screamed, "Stop!" he put the pipette air chamber directly into a calcium chloride and sodium carbonate solution. He filled the pipette air chamber with a precipitated solution. When I kept trying to explain why he contaminated the pipette and it probably had to be thrown out, he just kept going on about how I didn't see anything about pipette tips. I swear, Kevin must be both blind and deaf with how many important details he misses right in front of him. I literally said, "Put on a tip," right before he dunked it into the solution. He insisted it wasn't needed, that I was wrong, and to ask the other TA. The other TA called him a dumb fucking asshole, not to his face, thankfully, and told me to throw away the pipette when I told him it was dunked into a mixture of the two solutions to be used. Now here's the other Kevin S in the story. His partner Kevina didn't read the labels on the solution bottles and mixed calcium chloride with sodium carbonate in a beaker. These solutions are clear on their own, but form the very solid calcium carbonate when mixed. Kevin and his new Kevina partner didn't realize that there were labels on the bottle, and he therefore filled the pipette with what was literally limescale, hence why it was thrown away. Bonus, he almost ruined another pipette after I told him to not touch another one for the rest of the lab by turning it sideways with the solution in the tip. Kevin still didn't think anything was wrong with that. 4 headaches later, I officially fucking despise him. TLDR, Kevin creates limescale deposits inside a micropipette because neither he nor his partner Kevina can read or remember anything said to them. I think this Kevin might be in the wrong field of study. Oh my god, can you imagine if he mixes like 2 very wrong chemicals together? Oh no. I shouldn't have to put up with these people. Posted by user Amethyst_Uchiha? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I don't know many Kevins, but I know a lot of people who have very Kevin moments. Here are some of my favorites. Note that each story is about a different Kevin/Kevina. Me and Kevina are both a part of our school's marching band. She's in the color guard. The football field that we sometimes practice on didn't have any yard lines on it since the grass had just been cut just the previous day. Kevina was absolutely shook, and it took about 3 different people, myself included, and like 10 minutes to explain to her that the yard lines were painted on the field and that the grass doesn't grow white. Kevina tried to argue with me that states don't have capitals. We live in the US. Kevina tried to argue that fish weren't animals and instead insisted that they were mammals. She refused to believe that mammals were in the animal category. I've had cousin Kevina and my girlfriend both try to tell me that insects don't classify as animals, and that insects and animals are two completely different things. Kevin tried to argue me to the ground that we live in South America. We live in North America, and absolutely would not agree with me even after the teacher proved me right via a map. Those are all different Kevins and Kevinas? Oh no. What is in the drinking water in your area? Not saying you're affected, but holy shit. The worst coworker I've ever had. A true Kevina. Posted by user Toria_23. So I used to work in a little burger chain, and the managers were notorious for hiring just the dumbest, worst types of people ever. But this one was a whole new level. Some examples. Kevina did not know the difference between a lemon and a lime. I asked her if she remembered her colors. Lemon yellow, lime green. Oh, is that why they're called that? Kevina did not know if cheese came on a cheeseburger. She also didn't know that there were more than one type of cheese. Kevina asked what type of chips came on a Frito pie. For those who don't know, Frito pies are literally just a bunch of Frito brand corn chips, chili, and cheese. It's a very big thing in the region we live in. They're at every event imaginable. How she was confused about it, I'll never know. We had to wear disposable gloves to cut and handle jalapenos, at least to show trainees how to do it. I usually never did, but we had too many accidents of dumb people touching their eyes after touching jalapenos. Kevina did exactly that, because she thought that they were tiny bell peppers, even though I told her several times that they were jalapenos and spicy. Kevina did not know how sweet tea worked. She didn't understand why we brewed it hot and then added sugar. She told me several times that the tea wasn't cold, so how would the customers enjoy it? She also didn't understand how we knew how much sugar to add. She kept asking if that was enough or too much and how she would know when she got it right. We had a giant measuring cup with a clearly marked line on it. I told her several times that if she filled it up to the line every time she made a batch of sweet tea, then it would always be right. She didn't seem to believe me. Yeah, she lasted about 2 weeks before we got absolutely sick of her and fired her. Thank goodness. You gotta kind of wonder if this girl is like a trust fund baby or something like that, and her parents are withholding her trust fund from her until she gets some good old-fashioned work experience and get a little elbow grease going. I don't know, but geez, that's sad almost. My high school friend, the most dangerous of all Kevins, the book smart one. Posted by user Samantha. Sorry, I just wanted to say it like that. All right, let's go. Now, Kevina was drop dead gorgeous. UK size 8, US 4, tallish for a girl, blonde, stacked, dumb. She was incredibly book smart though. Maths, chemistry, biology, absolutely spot on straight A's. She struggled with physics and English, and it puzzled her teachers as the skills she needed to pass she could obviously utilize given her grades in other subjects, and a lot of them covered the same material. She did pass everything eventually and attended university, but I digress. The highlights from our time were: she put tinfoil in the microwave and it caught fire. She put the microwave in the kitchen sink and turned on the tap to put the fire out, while it was still plugged in. She was having trouble with geography, and the teacher was trying to explain and failed. Eventually, the teacher resorted to the basics and asked her to point north. Kevina pointed to the ceiling. She did a weird dance thing with her feet while we were both shoeless. I tried it and failed and said I think I've broken my heel because I'd slammed them together. She told me not to be so stupid, as I couldn't break a heel with no shoes on. I proceeded to explain to her what the different parts of your foot were called. She was mesmerized. She would argue vehemently with me that it was perfectly safe for her to fish toast out of the toaster with a metal knife, as I've done it loads of times and I've never been electrocuted. Yet, my dear friend. If you ask Kevina directions, she'd have to hold her hands up to look for the L for left. Fair enough. A lot of people struggle with that and use that trick. Kevina would do it palms facing her. We watched a movie together once, and about halfway through, I realized she shared her name with the main actress and pointed it out. Her reply, "Really? What's her name?" Oh, God. I'm interested to know what kind of music these people listen to. Like, I don't know why that's the first thought in my head, but I'm like really curious to know what kind of music this person listens to. What kind of shows do they watch? What do they find worth their time? Because clearly learning things isn't worth their time. I don't know. Oh, I love this subreddit. It's so good. Kevin learns about bees. Posted by user Saturn Cats. This one is pretty short. When I was in 8th grade, my teacher struggled mightily to convince Kevina that bees are pretty much normal insects, but when they sting you, they're injecting a toxin that hurts as a defense mechanism. Kevina did not believe her. Instead, she thought that bees buzzed because they obviously contained electricity, and the sting was therefore actually an electric shock. 8th grade. And they think this. Holy shit, I had a lot more figured out in 8th grade than what bees can do to you. Oh my god. These... I can't... No. I can't. I keep coming back to this, but this person is probably a voter now. Like, I hope they learned the difference between what a stinger actually does and doesn't do, because they are not made of electricity. I mean, they do have energy, but they're not zapping you with electricity, my dude. Religious Studies with Kevin and Kevin. Posted by user SquitchTweak. This subreddit reminded me of my school days. My RS class had a double act of Kevins. I shared a few classes with them, but for some reason, this one brought out the most bizarre comments. Our teacher told us that Muslims store the Quran higher up than any other book in the house as a mark of respect for the holy text. Kevin 1. But what if a really tall man came into the house? Teacher. It just has to be higher than other books, not higher than everything. Kevin 2. What if it was like a giant? Teacher. A giant is not a book. Kevin 1. Sir, what about the ceiling? It can't be higher than the ceiling. The teacher gave up. I once overheard the Kevins banter with each other, which included this exchange. This is indespicable. It's not indespicable. It's undespicable. We sometimes did peer marking after an exam, so you'd go through the answers while marking another student's work. I marked Kevin's. Muslims fast during Ramadan for 2 reasons. The first reason is that Jesus went into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. And the second reason is, I don't know. Yes, this bit bizarrely lacked plurals. Oh shit, I read it with plurals. That just goes to show how my brain works. I just automatically correct grammars mistakes. Grammar's mistakes. I can't even speak with proper grammar. What the fuck? Okay, let's just continue. At least he knew Jesus went into the desert for 40 days. It's not why Muslims fast in Ramadan, but hey, it looks like he learned something once about religion. I think I just learned a little something about religion. I didn't know that, but that's interesting. Reddit and learning. Oh, oh jeez. It's like Dumb and Dumber or Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Just oh, I love it. Mrs. Kevina, my grade 6 teacher. Posted by user WinterF19. I had the same teacher for grade 5 and 6, and she was most definitely a Kevina. The highlights included insisting that Latin is not a real language, not that it isn't commonly spoken anymore, but that it never existed in the first place. When one kid said that his favorite food was jam donuts with pink icing, she said that there was no such thing and became angry when the kid challenged her. Told me not to use big words in my writing assignments, but wouldn't explain what that meant. When one kid said that he hadn't had breakfast, she yelled at him for it in front of the class, saying that his house actually did have milk and bread, as they're staples of every household. When the kid said that his dad hadn't gone shopping so there was no food, she told him that he was wrong and just too stupid to find it. Pretty sure that kid also didn't have lunch that day. When one girl said that her family had emigrated from Yugoslavia, our teacher replied that that's not a real country. By that stage, it would have broken up, but when her family left it, it was still one country, and as far as they were concerned, they were Yugoslavian. Mrs. Kevina further isolated this girl by showing her a map and yelling at her that she was wrong. The poor girl was so confused. Now that I've typed it all out, maybe she wasn't exactly a Kevina, but just a horrible arsehole of a teacher. Holy, how does she have a, no, no, why is she with kids? No. My brain is broken right now. How is she teaching people? Yep, that was my brain. It just exploded. Nope. Please tell me she's not still teaching. Please tell me she's not still teaching. Okay, I'm moving on to the next one because I just can't fathom how this person is a teacher. Kevin made it to an honors class. Posted by user BKiggy1. A little bit of context. I'm an all-honors student ranked 3rd in the class for GPA. The only other 2 people in front of me are also in this class and experience this story as well. We have always had one student in our grade, Kevin, who has failed every class he's ever taken. His parents are rich though, and the private school we go to needs donations, so they couldn't hold him back in elementary school. And now that we're in high school, it's too late to do that. Due to the fact that he failed so many classes last year, his schedule got so messed up that he had to take an honors English class. It has been 5 weeks and he is already behind. This class is first hour. He comes to school, drops his stuff off in the classroom early. Then he walks around the hallway. The bell rings. We all get to the classroom, but he doesn't. About 15 minutes into class, he shows up, claiming he didn't hear the bell. This is bullcrap because 1, these bells are extremely loud and echo throughout the whole school, and 2, he waits right outside the classroom. We look at him through the open door and even say, "Hi, Kevin," to him. He claims he's in the honors class because he's the smartest student in the school. He doesn't study because he's so smart. Me and the 2 others I already mentioned don't study that hard because of a natural ease in school, but we don't brag about it. We have had 3 tests. He has failed all 3 of them. When we have already read, annotated, and written a paper on the book, he claims to have already read it. He said he would bring his own copy of it to use. It was a children's book with a similar title. The paper written above was supposed to be 3 pages long, a short paper. He turned in 1 sentence. I like this book, and I enjoyed reading about the characters in it and their struggles in life, and how they persevered in the world as they struggled to make a living in the new world they migrated to, and it was very good and informational, but I would not have chosen it, but it was still good and opened my eyes up to new literature. Spelled literature, not joking. All of that was 1 long sentence. We got a vocab list. When we went over the definitions, he insisted that the definition the teacher had and the ones we found were all wrong. He failed that quiz too. Our teacher's grandpa died last week after a stroke. He laughed when the sub told us that. He will most certainly be kicked out of this class by Christmas. Oh my God. Spoiled rich kids. See, this is what I keep coming back to. These spoiled trust fund babies getting... He should have failed it. They should have kept him back in grade... This kid needs to learn some shit. Put him back in elementary school. Seriously, just do it. Just do it. Show him some humility because he clearly needs to learn something. Like, holy fuck. Kevin the Pathological Liar. Posted by user Forsaken_Landfear. I discovered this subreddit about a week ago, and after consulting with my fiance, decided that I ought to share some stories about my father. I was raised by a pathological liar-style Kevin, and a Kevina who I'm surprised has made it this far in life. I've been dealing with this for a lifetime, and there are way, way, way too many stories to possibly write about it in great length, so I decided to take some choice bits and share them with you all in bullet form. Here we go. When I was in 3rd grade, we were doing some kind of class project about heritage and ancestry or something. I don't remember. Part of the project was to find out about someone you're descended from and come back to class and talk about your ancestor. I went home and Kevin told me that we were direct descendants of Braveheart. Not William Wallace, Braveheart. He also said we were direct descendants of William Tell. I went back to school and said this in front of the class. It went over about how you'd imagine it went over with the teacher. Kevin frequently served us rare chicken, but insisted that undercooked beef and steak was bad for you. So our steaks were tough and charred because he cooked them at the highest possible temperature in the oven, but the chicken often was pinkish, or that not quite cooked whitish way chicken gets in the middle. My brother became a vegetarian for a while because of the way Kevin cooked meat for us growing up, and still has a mild aversion to it. Kevin's version of stroganoff was overcooked, unstrained hamburger with undercooked egg noodles and an entire tub of sour cream, no seasoning. Kevin also never strained spaghetti, so we had to fish the spaghetti out of the pot with melted butter floating on the surface of the water. The spaghetti was left like this for hours and put in the fridge like that once dinner was finished. I have about a bajillion more examples of Kevin cuisine, but I feel like I should leave it at that. Kevin said that he was a Golden Gloves boxer. I later dated a guy whose father actually boxed. My ex's father and Kevin had a conversation about boxing. Kevin embarrassed himself, but Kevin's Kevinness inhibited him from realizing how embarrassing the situation actually was for him. Kevin was apparently a knee breaker for the mafia. He took my brother and I aside one night when I was like 19 and prefaced the conversation with, "Don't tell your mother, you two, but," and described how he'd go after people who owed money to the mob and broke their knees. Brother and I later figured out that he started watching some mafia show on TV the night before. Kevin apparently dated Christy Brinkley in college. Kevin went to the University of Illinois. Kevin described what my grandfather did to earn his medals in the war. He told me that my grandfather rode on the boats into Normandy Beach, scooped up injured people, brought them back to the boats, then turned around and went back to the beach to scoop up more injured people. I told someone this. The someone told me that what I was describing was the exact plot of some war movie. God damn it, Kevin. Again? Kevin claimed that his semester and a half of failed psych classes in college qualified him in the mental health field. Kevin found out that I was self-harming in the 9th grade, and his qualified approach to this was to keep me in my room with my door open, no privacy except to change, so that he would watch me 24/7 and ask me if I was feeling depressed or suicidal every day. And if I answered that I was feeling depressed, he would ask why. If I said it was because he was locking me in my fucking room every day, he said that this was my treatment, and if I didn't like it, I could stop self-harming. He brainwashed me into believing that this was normal treatment, and that if I told anyone that they would agree with him and not me. Kevin claimed that while he was outside smoking at the Star Trek convention, that Michael Dorn approached him and said, "Can you give me one of your cigarettes, man? My assistant won't let me have any." Also, apparently, Kate Mulgrew asked him for heroin at this same convention. Kate Mulgrew was not one of the celebrities at the convention. One time, my brother had about half a joint and a bottle of vodka left over from a party. Kevin was unemployed at the time and home by himself while everyone else was out at work. My brother came home, and before he even went upstairs, Kevin ran up to him excitedly describing the home invasion that had transpired during the day. A Brazilian dude who spoke no English broke into the house and was rummaging around in my brother's room. But don't worry, Kevin scared him away. "Did you call the cops?" we all asked. No need to call the cops. That guy won't be coming back. He knows I'll beat his ass." My brother realized eventually that the joint and vodka were missing. This home invader invaded our home and specifically only stole half a joint and a bottle of vodka, which was upstairs in my brother's room. He even knew exactly where to look for it. I mean, what are the odds? I was very briefly on transitional assistance, food stamps, and welfare when my daughter was born. Kevin told me that I owed him $100 when my first check came in. This $100 was for one can of formula that he offered to buy / said I didn't have to pay back for, and laundry that he did, which I didn't ask for. I pointed out that those two favors didn't amount to $100, and the situation became that he would call the DTA and take my welfare away if I didn't give him the $100. I gave it to him just to make him shut up, and he bought weed and a PS2 and sold the PS2 back to GameStop a week later for more weed. So he punked his daughter out of $100 that she needed for his granddaughter for drugs. Kevin once was looking out of the kitchen window while the rest of the family were conversing and shouted, "Did you guys see that eagle? Holy shit, an eagle! An eagle!" and ran outside shouting and pointing at the sky. There was no eagle. We still have no idea what that was about. Kevin works for a company that sets up bins throughout our town that say, "Donate here." People donate. His company picks up the stuff in the bins and resells it. Kevin gets his pick of what's in the bins. I know it. My brother knows it. My extended family knows it. Our friends and acquaintances all know it. Kevin still takes the things from the bins and tries to give them away as Christmas presents. Like, without washing them. As in, giving my cousin a shirt that had garbage juice on it and reeked of cigarette smoke, but claimed that he bought it because the tag was still on it. He feels that because the tag is still on it, the item is automatically brand new and that he can tell people it's a new item, even if the item is clearly from like 1997. My aunt was not happy about the garbage shirt incident and called him out, and Kevin was angry because my aunt should have been grateful that he thought of her son at Christmas time. TLDR. It's amazing what one can get away with saying when you have impressionable children to lie to, I guess. Also, cursed cooking and garbage shirts. The end. Holy. This is... Whoa. I couldn't imagine living with that. That's like being raised with... Ugh. OP, all I can say is... You survived. Good job. Good survival skills you got there. Holy shit. Kevin lights himself on fire. Posted by user Sam_the_Shinobi. I'm a welder, and these are stories about someone back when I was still in welding school. His name isn't really Kevin, obviously. Despite having the mental capacity of a zooplankton, he somehow made it through the first part of welding school, but I think he left due to the last incident I'll describe here. Edit for clarification. The classes I describe are taking simultaneously, so Kevin was only there for like 7 or 8 weeks out of a 1-year program. This was the first day of the Welding and Cutting Fundamentals class, the first class of the program. We were all told specifically to wear flame-resistant jeans and leather work boots because we were going to be working with sparks and bit of sharp metal. Kevin shows up in a basketball shorts and sneakers. The instructor just sent him home and told him to come back next class with proper gear. Not a huge deal. The next day, Kevin shows up in jeans and cowboy boots. A lot of welders wear pull-on boots, but cowboy boots were a bit of a stretch. The instructor just kind of rolled his eyes and said it was okay. Fast forward a bit, and we are doing an introduction to using a plasma cutter. The instructor tells Kevin that he needs to make sure that he pulls his jeans over his boots and not to have his jeans tucked into his boots as they were at the time. Kevin does, but as soon as we break up to go to the different booths and practice, Kevin tucks his jeans back into his boots again. He said, and I quote, "Fuck, instructor's name, it looks cool this way." Those of you who are welders can see where this is going. Let me explain. A plasma cutter shoots a stream of sparks straight downward, and once in a while, a blob of molten metal will fall down onto the floor. To clarify, you aren't supposed to stand with your feet right in the blast zone of the sparks. You're supposed to step back a bit so the sparks and stuff land in front of you. A few moments in, I hear screaming from Kevin's booth, and I turn to see him hopping across the shop trying to yank his boot off and screaming all kinds of profanities. A blob of molten steel had fallen down inside Kevin's boot and was now burning his foot. He gets his boot off and runs outside to the sink, and I can hear him running his foot under the water. The instructor hands Kevin the first aid kit and says, "Remember when I said you need to pull your jeans over your boots? That wouldn't have happened if you had listened." Number 2. First day of MIG plate welding. Kevin is in my class again. Lucky me. Did I mention that in addition to being as dense as a pile of rocks, this guy was also a complete douche nozzle? Anyway, for those of you who don't know, a MIG welder has 2 knobs on the front of it, one that controls the voltage and another that controls the speed of the welding wire feeds out of the gun. You need to set both of them properly depending on the thickness of the metal you're welding and what position you're welding in. Kevin was completely incapable of understanding this and would just crank both settings up all the way all the time. Understandably, the welds he made were awful, and Kevin couldn't understand why. The instructor figured out what was going on and set the knobs properly for Kevin. The instructor left, and within a few minutes, Kevin's welds sounded terrible again. MIG welding with incorrect settings makes a very distinctive noise. The instructor went over to see what was going on, and Kevin had turned both knobs all the way up again. This repeated several more times over the course of the class. Every time the instructor told Kevin not to touch his knobs, and he kept doing it anyway, for who knows what reason. Number 3. Partway through the stick plate welding class, we were practicing working in the 4G welding position, which is overhead. Imagine the joints between the wall of a ceiling. As you can imagine, working in this position means your hands have a lot of sparks and bits of molten metal falling down on them. And stick welding produces more sparks and spatter than other welding types. Kevin was having trouble doing this, and he said that he was having trouble controlling the rod as he was welding, and that's why his welds were so bad. So, for some reason, Kevin decided to take off his gloves and weld with bare hands so he could have better control of the rod. For you welders out there, this was in the 4G position, with the 70-18 rod on half-inch steel plate. Kevin struck an arc, and very quickly realized that his hands were being absolutely destroyed by the heat and sparks and spatter coming down on them. Why he thought that would be a good idea? I have no clue. Number 4. On at least 25 occasions I can think of, Kevin has tried to weld with his welding helmet either flipped up on top of his head or off his head completely. Several of them resulted in him seriously burning his eyes. I was honestly surprised this idiot could still see at the end of welding school. Number 5. My last story for the day, and the namesake of this post, was when Kevin lit himself on fire. The pants and jackets welders wear are made from cotton and are treated with a chemical that makes them fire resistant. This doesn't mean that they will not burn, just that they will self-extinguish when the heat source is moved away. So here's what happened. Kevin comes in, puts on his jacket, and starts to weld. After a minute or two, I hear a huge commotion across the welding lab, and I look to see Kevin running frantically around, screaming with his chest and arms out of his jacket engulfed in flames. I think you remember Stop, Drop, and Roll? Well, Kevin tried the vastly inferior scream, jump around, and try to hit the flames to extinguish them. The instructor told Kevin to stand still and blasted him up and down with a fire extinguisher. I'm pretty sure Kevin had to go to the ER to get treatment for burns all over his upper body. Here's the story, as I found out after. Kevin had kept his welding jacket in his car next to a jerry can full of gasoline. The jerry can fell over on the way to class, and some of the gas spilled out and got all over Kevin's welding jacket. He wore it when he welded, and a spark hit the gas and sent the whole jacket on fire. When asked what the actual fuck he was thinking, Kevin said that he thought it wouldn't matter because that jacket was fire resistant. It is, but not when it's fucking soaked in gasoline. Edit. Grammar and clarified a few welding terms. This is... I'm laughing, but I'm also horrified that like it could have been so much worse. This guy, and he just keeps going back for more. Like at one point you got to stop and think, maybe this isn't the right field for me. Maybe I'm just a little bit too accident prone or lacking a little bit too much brain matter to be doing this. You think? Holy fuck. Oh my god. Whew, okay, let's move on to the last story of the day. It's another long one, but we'll get through it. It's good times. We're laughing. It's good. Let's do it. My friend tries to divorce Kevin. Posted by user Data Laughing. When we were all younger and dumber, one of my closest friends married the craziest Kevin I've ever met. My friend had just come off of a very bad relationship that she'd been certain was going to end in marriage, when in reality, the guy was cheating on her while using her to support his wannabe pro-golfer existence, then dumped her when someone with more money came along. So she was in a bad place. A few months later, Kevin appears. The first time I met Kevin was when the two of them showed up at my apartment to announce their engagement. Since I'd met the previous guy that she was seriously dating just a month before, I know they couldn't have been seeing each other for very long. Turns out, Kevin proposed 5 weeks after their first date. Maybe she was a bit of a Kevin too for saying yes at that point, but like I said, bad place. It's hard for me to accurately describe Kevin without dipping into being mean, because I never liked him from that first meeting. It was like he really wanted to be one of those hyper-masculine manly men, but didn't quite know how. He liked to take any opportunity to bring up conversation that he was a black belt. I remember the first time he said it because I asked, "Oh yeah? In what?" And he looked at me like I was an idiot. "In martial arts?" "Oh, right, of course." He also would talk at length about how much he worked out. Turns out, he didn't actually work out at all. He liked to think of himself as a car guy because he had a sports car he couldn't afford and treated it like his baby. He didn't actually know anything about cars, but he had one, so car guy. But the thing that really got up my nose about the guy was that he prided himself on how very smart he was. He'd make the most outrageous claims with the most pig-headed certainty. He just knew these things were true, and if you disagreed, even if you showed actual physical proof that he was wrong, he'd just condescendingly tell you that you didn't understand these things like he did, and go on with his idiocy. Just as an example, he once declared that you can't break the law at night. What exactly does that mean? We still don't know. He wouldn't elaborate. As a second example, he had trouble getting a fire going in their fireplace when he was home alone one day. His solution? Mix up some homemade napalm from a recipe he found on the internet. It was a huge disaster. Set the kitchen on fire. Luckily, my friend arrived home in time to grab the fire extinguisher. Yet he insisted doggedly that he knew what he was doing, and really, this was the best way to get the fireplace going. And obviously, she didn't understand because she didn't know as much about this stuff as he did. Sorry, I know that's a lot of setting the stage. One last important thing to know about Kevin before we get round to the divorce I promised. Kevin was a religious nut. I don't mean he was crazy because he was religious. I've known many wonderful, intelligent religious people in my lifetime. Kevin was a crazy person who used religion as his MO. He would randomly proclaim, "The Bible says," to support whatever other crazy thing he'd said. Most people let him get away with it because, hell, the Bible is really long and says a lot of crazy shit. Who could say that? Somewhere in there, it didn't actually say whatever insane thing he was claiming. And besides, who wants to confront crazy? Even when the claim was something insane like, "The Bible says that birds are of the devil." Yes, this is a thing he said one day when he was angry at birds for some reason. I was raised going to church twice a week, once upon a time. So I knew a bit about that particular book, and I had a pathological need when I was younger to call people on their bullshit. So we often butted heads. Unsurprisingly, when confronted, Kevin could never actually tell you where in the Bible it said you shouldn't take the first slice of pizza. Yep, he said that too, but it didn't decrease his certainty that it was in there. So as anyone but the two of them could have predicted, the marriage didn't last. He became increasingly erratic, forbidding her from speaking to friends, including me, because the Bible says so. Hitting her because the Bible says she has to do whatever he says and that he's allowed to beat her if she doesn't. Stuff like that. So she left, and here is where the wackiest Kevining begins. She gets a lawyer to initiate divorce proceedings, and the first thing that comes up is the house. They bought the house from his parents. More precisely, she bought the house from his parents. He had terrible credit. As a result, his name wasn't on anything related to the house. He also had no job, meaning he'd never made a single payment on the house. As far as she saw it, the house was hers. His mother, who came into town to support her son through his misfortune, didn't see it that way. They declared that the house still belonged to the mother and threw all of my friend's stuff out on the lawn. Friend's lawyer gets a preliminary hearing date set up to determine the initial dispersion of important stuff like the house, at least until the divorce proceedings get all sorted. So friend's lawyer says to Kevin, "Have your lawyer contact me to set up a meeting before the hearing." A meeting is set up, and who arrives at the lawyer's office but Kevin, dressed in jeans and a windbreaker, claiming to be Mr. Steele, the lawyer. I shit you not. He decided he'd be his own lawyer, and he'd call himself Mr. Steele, not his name. I don't know how the initial meeting went, but when the time for the hearing came, Kevin was once again acting as his own attorney. This time, I can only assume he wasn't working under a pseudonym. Keep in mind, the rest of this is totally going off of her story to me immediately after the hearing. Kevin and his mother arrived 20 minutes late, not at all dressed for court, casual jeans and shirt. The first thing he says when he walks in is, "Can I approach the bench?" "Why?" the judge asks. "Because I have some receipts." So, friend gets called to the stand. Her lawyer asks a bunch of questions illustrating just how crazy Kevin is and how bad things have gotten, and about the house and stuff. Then Kevin, since he's the lawyer, gets to cross-examine. His first question: "Is it not true that you were beaten as a child?" Her lawyer: "Objection." The judge: "Sustained." The question had nothing to do with anything. Other questions included: "Is it not true that you were seeing a psychiatrist and on medication for depression?" No, it's not true. She'd never seen a mental health professional. Not sure if he thought he might trick her into lying on that one, or if he was so crazy that he actually thought it was true. He asked a bunch of other ridiculous questions, which her lawyer let him ask because they were completely out of nowhere and just helped prove to the judge how nuts he was. Then he takes the stand. Her lawyer gets him to admit to pretty much everything they said he did, because it was all true, but he refuses to give specific answers to some of the more serious questions. Not no, just doesn't want to give specifics. Then he gets to make a statement. His statement is how he doesn't want a divorce, and also she was abusive to him, such as pinching him once when they were on the highway. Also, the Bible says that she's his wife, so she has to do whatever he wants, and that divorce is bad. How can the judge make him get a divorce when the Bible says not to? Apparently, he went on in this vein for a while. She just gave me a couple of the highlights. Needless to say, the initial hearing did not go his way. She ended up getting the house in the short term and a protective order against him after he admitted in court to his violence against her. The Bible says it's okay, though. After this, he dragged his feet at every point of the process. For more than 6 months, he wouldn't show up to things or would refuse to sign things until the last possible moment. He moved to a different city and apparently joined the Army Reserve. When friend found out about this, her lawyer contacted someone there to point out that he wasn't allowed to be around weapons or something like that because of the protective order. Legal stuff that's over my head. The lawyer even contacted him and offered to drop the protective order so he could stay in if he just agreed to finish the divorce proceedings in a timely manner. Kevin refused. In the end, he got pretty much nothing and quietly disappeared. Okay, he should have been admitted somewhere. Holy fuck. And how did he, don't they do like extensive psychiatric tests for people to get in the army? Like, isn't that part of the initial recruiting process? Like, how did he pass? How? What? Oh my god. This is, Okay, I'm not gonna get political. I'm just gonna end this video. Oh my god. I hope you guys liked it. I'm still baffled. I really hope you guys liked it. Except for... I can't. Anyway, hit that like button if you liked it. Hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to be notified when I have future videos just like this so you never miss one. As always, the links to these stories... I'm sorry, I can't. I'm still baffled. The links to the stories will be in the description. So head on over to Reddit and show those users some love by giving their stories some upvotes. And while you're in the enchanted land of Reddit, head on over to r/RedditFairy and submit your stories there. Because you never know, my dudes, it just might show up in the next video. Oh my god. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you guys have a great week. I might post one tomorrow, but anyway, have a good one. Bye.